I just want to get your thoughts initially on that Steelers draft class that just came in here.
Yeah, I think overall, I think they hit on everything they needed to hit on. They didn't reach for anybody. Of course, you make the trade up to go get the tackle that you needed. But at the end of the day, they were able to kind of sit back and just let everything fall. And I like everything that they've done. And then now it's just a matter of, can these guys, how fast can they pick up the system? And can some of them, separate themselves, eventually become a starter, or now you're going to create some of that depth. So I really like what Omar Khan has done in his first draft, really just getting out of the shadows of Kevin Colbert, who is a Hall of Fame general manager. He will be in the Hall of Fame here soon. But I really have to give props for Omar Khan for really doing his thing in this draft.
No, without a doubt, man. He's definitely been doing a lot of impressive stuff, man, whether it's been through free agency or even in the draft. And one of the players that he took in the second round, 32nd overall, you played with his pops. But ultimately, man, I just wanted to hear your thoughts on the Joey Porter Jr. selection. And, just seeing him full circle, man, come from being the pup to now being the draft pick and, putting on that Steelers uniform.
Yeah, it was awesome to see that pick, and of course, a lot of speculation leading up to it. And obviously, the pedigree that you're getting with the Porter name, with his father, the way the career he had with the Steelers. And I think ultimately, just watching little Joey grow up, and I've been fortunate enough to do that since he was 5 or 6 years old, and just kind of seeing putting that work in. And one of the things, I got a firsthand experience because he actually ran for our track club
Let's
underneath Best
go.
of the Batch Foundation, which is called Next Level Athletics. And for him to go work, show up to practice, and really just work on his speed and technique on everything that he was doing, you knew he had the talent to be able to do that. But how was that going to translate? Because everybody trying to figure out what position he was going to play. And ultimately, as he settled in for receiver, he was a punt returner, he was a defensive
Mm-hmm.
back, he did everything at North Allegheny. And just to kind of see him stay humble, stay the course, and put himself in position. And I remember like it was yesterday when Penn State was showing up to North Allegheny to recruit him, and ultimately James Franklin was able to pull him in. And it didn't start out as well as what he thought it was going to be up at Penn State. He ended up redshirting, played a couple games there, but just making sure that he worked on technique and everything that he was doing behind the scenes that his dad had him doing. Yeah, one thing to work out at Penn State, but to get to the point of putting in that work outside of it, man. He worked his tail off, and now he gets a chance to separate himself away from his father. But at the same time, we know what we're going to get with the Porter that Porter regime, and it's
Yeah.
really exciting to see what he brings to the table. And I know he's super excited about it.
No, without a doubt. And man, that's the dope part about what you do. Obviously, we're going to talk about some of your foundation work later on, but I mean, it's just cool to see that full circle vibe, man, and just the Steelers family way that we always hear people talk about. So maybe you might already be a little biased with your answer, but I'm going to ask it anyways. Who was your favorite pick, from the draft?
Well, for me, it's Roger Jones. I mean, I think when you look back at that first round pick, you're solidifying the offensive line.
Okay,
It's something that
okay.
wasn't challenged last year as it relates to the depth because those starting five played the entire game. But I think if you look, or entire season, but if something was to happen, I was concerned. I'm like, okay, do we have enough depth to actually plug and play? And like, something that was always phrased around here, especially from Coach Tomlin, was we have starters and we have starters in waiting. I don't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily think that was something that would have been, that would have really played itself out if extended period of time and some of those backups had to play. Ultimately, they weren't retained. A lot of those guys moved on to other organizations. So the Steelers had to do something that they haven't done in years around here. And of course, Andy White, Omar Khan, they had to go outside, pick up free agents, bring them here, and then ultimately now add with the depth. So I think what you have right now is what we've been accustomed to over the years. You have 8 or 9 guys that are solid, that's capable of playing. And it's going to be really interesting from a competition perspective on how that shapes out up front.